Right, we're just going live now. Hello everyone, welcome back to another content-filled video with me and Ultris as we talk about Build Divers Re-Rise. So, say hi Ultris!
Hello.
It's been a bit of a busy day, so you'll have to excuse me if I sound a little bit all over the place. But yeah, last time we left on part 5, where what we'd done is in the past stream, for anyone who doesn't know, we talked about what we liked about episodes 1 through 4 and bits that we thought were either pretty neat to pick up on or elements that we just completely enjoyed. Maybe criticized a couple of bits, just a tiny bit, but it was more so the whole thing of saying what the first 4 episodes did in terms of setting up characters and plot that was a lot better than Build Divers Season 1. So we pick back up. I'm going to go straight into this while it's fresh in my mind. We go back into episode 5, and episode 5 focuses a lot on Pa. We mentioned it in episode 4 at the end, where Pa wants to meet up with the team, but instead is spending a lot of time pondering and talking to his Gunpla, the Valkylander. And what ends up happening is he's late to arrive to the next meetup, to which he ends up apologizing like crazy. We get introduced to another sort of planning phase where the team has to combine with Jed and Jed's forces to infiltrate the One Eye's base. Jed, I don't think we focused on it the last time. We might have, but Jed, for anyone who doesn't know, is the sort of like the team leader of the resistance that the natives have, and the idea is to sneak into the enemy base and plant bombs all over it and get out. And this is what they were preparing for in episode 4, with the whole deal of fighting one enemy that's particularly harder than anything else. So they go over the initial plan, they discuss it with Jed, and after the planning phase, Hiroto goes off to talk to Pa, who's kind of still moping around a little bit, and tries to cheer him up. And they have kind of a heart-to-heart conversation about whether Gunpla can inherit people's feelings, whether they actually feel stuff, and what they think. And Pa basically has this sort of idea that his Valkylander wouldn't be happy with him being a pilot, or wouldn't be happy with him basically being in command, primarily because he just thinks he sucks as a pilot, which is, he's being a bit harsh on himself. We've discussed this before. He's new to the entire thing of GBN, so it's one of those things where he's coming into it and he's being incredibly harsh on himself. To which Hiroto kind of cheers him up and says something along the lines of, Gunpla can kind of feel and understand your feelings, so I imagine it'd be pretty happy with you, This kind of cheers Pa up a little bit, to the point where later on, when they're going out on the mission to assault the One Eye's base, Pa actually decides, yeah, I'm going to go with you guys, because they were originally going to leave him at the village, and when he goes with them, he's put on escort duty because he can't fly. This entire time he's been going on about how he can't fly, and we mentioned it last video, where he was kind of getting flashbacks in real life, or like panic attacks, as to his condition, and it's a major aspect of why he can't fly early on, or why he's reluctant to even try, or when he does, he messes it up. And during the course of this battle, they get ambushed by a very large boss-style four-legged Death Army grunt with like a lance, and no matter what everyone does, they seem to be struggling with it. And while this is happening, Pa manages to cover the the assault team, Jed's kind of like small group, as they manage to get inside this facility that's building, or we see that it's either building or housing a lot more One Eyes or Death Army grunts. Basically different variations, including flight types and things like that, and it's built kind of around this volcanic area. And initially they try and hack the way in Metal Gear style, and it doesn't work, so they end up having Jed blow the door off with some weapons that they've found previously that are like beam weapons that they know aren't anything to do with GBN, and are really, really kind of weird. Not even the villagers quite understand them. And when they get in, they start planting bombs everywhere. And outside, everybody's still struggling. We have Hiroto in the V2 armor trying out his new beam cannon, and it's not really working too well. And we end up with two of these like four-legged grunts at one point trying to defend this base area. Meanwhile, somebody on the assault team sets off the bombs a little bit too early, and the timer starts counting down, so they all have to run out like really fast to avoid getting killed. And this is when Pa joins in the fight with the larger grunts, because he has to do something to try and clear the way for Jed and everybody, and ends up getting knocked into what looks like a lava pit. And eventually, when he's kind of left with nothing else that he can do apart from suffer a very, very bad fate of landing in a lake or a pool of hot lava, the Valkylander transforms into its sort of like SD true form instead of its dragon form. Very similar to how we've seen stuff like the Star Winning and Ayame's like unicorn Gundam from Build Divers.
Zero.
We see something like that happen, and then everything after that is just the Valkylander wrecking everything. To which then they kind of go back to the village and kind of relax, and that's the end of the episode there. But for this one, I don't mind it in terms of character development for Pa, but like I like Pa's design for his SD Gundam. It's pretty cool. But the thing that I have a problem with in this is, like, because they'd focused so much on Kazami and Hiroto up until now, they tried to cram all of Pa's sort of growth and stuff into this one episode to kind of speed things up. And it felt a lot like they were just pandering to him at the end just to kind of make it catch up really fast in terms of his story catching up with everybody else's, him feeling like he's now a proper member of the group that can actually pull his own weight. You know, it was it was one of those things where I wasn't too sure about it in terms of pacing and just the way that it ended with him seemingly being the one that kind of solves all of the team's problems at the end. But apart from that, I did like the animations and everything else in it. Like, the animation was nice, it was clean. Up until now, they've only used, I think, 3 animations over and over and over again, and that's Maze Wodon Pod shooting missiles. It's the same animation, just on different backgrounds. It's nowhere near Seed levels of bad in terms of reused animation, but I just started to notice it before. But yeah, anyway, Ultris, what do you think of this one? Because I've been mouthing off for like 9 minutes here.
Before I get into that, just on a side note, thank you for reminding me. I need to watch Boo Fire's videos about Seed and Seed Destiny.
Oh?
But getting back on topic, I thought the episode was okay. I agree. I hate how they kind of just crammed Par's character development into this one episode. I've basically nicknamed this episode the Parviz hand job. And I mean, it fits. Like, from episode 1 to 4, Parvis really isn't doing much. He doesn't have the skill of the other pilots. In fact, and this may be shocking, but Kazami was more skilled than Parvis, and he's a fucking idiot. I mean, facts are facts, but it's just one of those things where it's like, oh yeah, we don't know what to do with Parvis. Let's give him character development, but we can't have it go on too long, so let's just make it this one episode. And it feels really forced. He just, to get him to fly and not be afraid of heights, which I'm going to tell you, even after he got the ability to fly and whatnot in this one fight, that wouldn't really immediately fix his fear of heights.
No.
Like the show would like you to believe. It would help, but it wouldn't fix it. And I don't know, there's not much else. I thought the timing of the enemies was a bit suspect. Like, the entire facility explodes. And there is hundreds, at least, they don't really give a good viewing of how many units there actually is. Of these, these Death Army custom grunt units, and then we have a new aerial type. Excuse me, which, somehow it blows up everything except 3 of these aerial units. Like, what? Everything else gets destroyed except 3 of the aerial units. What?
I mean, we did have the whole thing of the one that got crushed under the rocks in episode 2 or 3? That was kind of the same thing, but I know what you mean.
But see, I can believe that one more than I can believe every other suit except these 3 blowing up.
Maybe they were furthest away from the explosions, or maybe they just didn't have any bombs planted on them, because when you look, there are a few in the back that don't have any bombs planted on them, purely because of the simple fact of they use all the bombs on just a couple of suits at the end. When they realise they've messed up, they're just like, oh no, and then they throw an entire bag of bombs on, like, 2 suits, basically.
True. Also, I do love the big guy and the skinny guy duo. I thought that was pretty funny, where it's like the skinny guy's holding up the big guy.
Oh, Jed's team members.
Come on. Come on. But other than that, the episode was okay. Parvis hand job, and that's basically the sum of it.
I do like the way that they're treating the supporting cast with this so far. Like, for instance, the resistance team members and the villagers. Like, up until now, it doesn't feel like they're overstaying the welcome to me, at least, and it's not as if they're like totally annoying. That's the one thing that I've noticed when I'm rewatching it again, where it's not as if I'm immediately being like, okay, my brain's turning off the moment I see anything to do with the village. Instead, it's like, no, these characters actually have valid things that actually kind of add to the world building and everything, or at least add to the situation, whether it be just allowing the main characters to have some funny moments, or whether it be actually allowing us to see different sides of them. Like, for instance, Kazami's kind of, over the course of the first 4 episodes, is slowly catching little sort of changes in tone and attitude that Maya has to him, and he's kind of picking up on him and being like, oh, maybe I should kind of chill out a little bit and stuff. So you do see him kind of picking up on it a little bit, but they only really show him do it, like, I think once or twice.
Yeah, I really love how this show is handling the support cast compared to Divers.
It's like
Uh,
it's like I said before in one of the other episodes,
yeah,
or like one of the the other parts. The one thing that is the most jarring for anyone when watching this is the whole thing of the furry characters, but we already discussed the whole thing about avatars in the game and stuff already. So I just feel like by this point, if you've pretty much settled into it and you're like, oh okay, then it's really not gonna feel any different to just having normal cast there. You know, it's just that they're better written.
all right. I think that's a good spot to move on to episode 6 now.
Yep. Do you want to take this one?
Yeah. Episode 6, we open on a video recap where Kazami is realizing that he did absolutely dick all in the previous episode, and he refuses to upload it because it's not cool. Which, again, plays into the whole, like, his hero idol is Captain Zeon, and for a long time, Captain Zeon never lost. Until he did, and Kazami refused to see it. But while everyone's doing their own thing, Hirato shows up, and Kazumi basically just says he can do better. He actually says, this isn't me, but it's another form of I can do better. After that, we get cut to the village where everyone's getting briefed on the situation. They have to travel to the actual resistance base of operations and all that. And Kazumi is like, oh, we have to travel there sort of mentality and attitude. And everyone's making preparations. And then we see Stola come up to Kazumi, and he's harassing him to take him with them because he wants to join the resistance. And both of them get caught by Maya. And she has her usual attitude. So they leave the village, and we cut to the resistance base, and it's a small walking segment through what looks like a warehouse, and then we get introduced to the guy who is like a higher up in the chain of command for the resistance, and they're talking about moving everyone and their supplies from that base to Seguri, which is an island city in the middle of a river delta. Kazumi isn't happy, but the moment Mei mentions an enemy raid, Kazumi's like, what? Enemy raid? Oh, shit, sweet, let's go! And Muran, one of the... I guess he's a leader of some sort? It's never really explained.
Yeah, it's never really stated.
He has offhandedly mentions that he's had interactions with divers, such as like Kazumi and Parvez and all that, but doesn't outright say it. And he comes from the standpoint of like, you people are outsiders, we can't trust you, type thing. And then Hirato's like, I don't care if you don't trust us. We'll just continue giving it our best. Which calms the mood down a little bit. Something about Seltsam is mentioned. Then we cut to the party back in either the main hub or one of the many various GBN cities scattered throughout wherever their server is. And they're basically planning what to do. Like, what are we going to do if the Seltsam shows up? And why is it collaborating with the One Eyes? And how do we prepare for this raid? And their first idea is a created mission. But the created mission gets shot down because you can't give the AI unique attack patterns. Like, you can't make them act like a player would and attack either prematurely or late. They just attack at set times. And they also can't program them to take advantage of, like, a player's weakness. And this is where Kazami's old party comes in, because they contemplate, okay, well, if we can't do that, let's do player versus player. So then they go to register, and they're viewing the PvP screening, and Kazumi's old group shows up, and they're like, oh, hey, Kazumi! Looks like you found a new group. Still up to your old antics. And you can tell that it gets under Kazumi's skin, and he tries to boast a bit, like, he's the group's leader, and they're doing great on this mission. And then Mr. Gojo, who was the previous group Kazumi was in, he's their leader, and he basically just belittles Kazumi, like, oh, acting all tough, and you haven't changed. I guess it was sort of be like tough love, if that makes sense. Like he's not trying to make Kazumi feel bad. He's trying to build Kazumi up as a person, but it just, with the way Kazumi is feeling currently and everything that's happened, it's not working. Then after that, we get to cut to the battle happening. It shows the tactics of both teams a little bit. We get to see just how uncoordinated the group that Harato, Kazumi, and all that are in. Because they barely know each other, so they don't know, like, they don't have call signs or anything like that. They just kind of do things, and it works out. And we see that Mr. Gojo's team, they've known each other for a while. They have everything down to a science, pretty much. And they've set up a dampening field, and they're blocking communications and all this. And Harato's really the only one who's prepared for this. And we see one of Gojo's men coming in for a sneak attack through the mist. And then, he gets spotted by Harato, who has, I believe it's the Earth armor up in the air that's acting as a surveillance camera. And the one team member gets spotted. Mr. Gojo tells him to pull back. And then Gojo sets up a feint, which Kazumi completely falls for. And he just immediately gets wrecked. This leads to more sort of shaming on Kazumi's part, because he's like, this isn't me, I can do better. And then we see, like, all the convoy or train get destroyed, and the group's like, we completely got destroyed. We weren't coordinated very well. And then Mr. Gojo is criticizing Harato about not telling his team everything. And Harato's just kind of like, okay. There's really no words. He's just kind of like, okay. And then he asks Harato what his team means to him, what Kazumi means to him. And Harato doesn't say anything. He's just kind of sitting there with the blank expression. Kazumi just walks off. Then, after everyone logs out and all that, we cut to Harato at his house, and his mother is giving him a bento box, or like a little snack box of food, and she tells him to give this to Hinata, who's in the park, which has an archery range for some weird reason.
I mean, why not?
I don't know, right? Like, hey, there's a random archery range inside a park. What? So they go there. Harato goes there. He gives her the food, which turns out to be little sandwiches. And he's remarking on how she's being very quiet. She's not talking like she usually does. And she explains that she's feeling a little depressed. Her seniors are giving her a tough time, but she knows that it comes from a good place, and she wants to repay them for their kindness. And throughout this, Harato has a flashback to Gojo's words and realizes sort of realizes the meanings behind it. And then he's like, oh. Then we cut to Kazumi being depressed before the credits roll. Overall, it's really just more of like a character building episode. Nothing really happens. Kazumi just gets depressed because he's not performing at his peak. Not that he ever was in the first place. And Gojo's words really cut deep, but it's not like Gojo was specifically digging into Kazumi. And Harato is just thinking, okay, what can I do now to better improve relations between the team? And that's really just about it. There's not much that goes on in this episode, and not much to take away from it.
We did miss out that the actual practice mission that they're doing, apart from being like a team battle, the idea of the objective is to escort the train across the battlefield, and the whole point of that is that it'll come up in the next episode. So it's a case of defend the convoy or defend the train while something's attacking it, and try and sort of succeed. And that's what they end up failing because of a lack of teamwork. The whole thing that I liked about this was some of the whole things that Hirato's still playing in it is, bag of tricks, like for instance using the earth armor as like a camera. And the reason for that is primarily just because of low visibility, because of Gojo's team using, it was a jamming field that caused low visibility as well, almost like fog. But yeah, I liked that with this. I liked the fact that you get to see the characters a little bit outside their element, and by that I mean like you don't see them winning all the time like in Build Divers Season 1. It's a frustrating time for them, especially for Kazumi, because he's kind of just sailed along for the first 5 episodes on him just boasting and being like, yeah, we'll do awesome, it'll be great, and then not really doing much. And after that, like, initial sort of, oh yeah, we've got used to this now, it'll be fine, when the stakes are really raised and he's kind of asked to step up a little bit, that's when he realizes, like, yeah, I'm not as, or rather he's forced to see, like, he's not as good as he thinks he is. He's kind of just sailing by on others' efforts, and no matter what anybody else does, it's only him that can really change what's going on. And I feel like all the sort of trying to build him up this episode, as much as it doesn't go well because he takes it the wrong way or it's worded wrong to him, or just the simple fact of he just ignores it, because he's so set in his own way. As much as that is there to try and build him up or to try and get him to realize, I like the fact that he's not immediately given an answer to his trouble. He's not suddenly turning around and being like, oh yeah, I'm the best one ever now. Instead, he's visibly depressed and frustrated to the point where you can kind of relate to him if you've ever like got really annoyed at a game and wanted to just throw the pad. I imagine that's what Kazami's like, because he's basically presented with a situation where he's like, yeah, you have to do this boss raid and protect this convoy at the same time. It's really important, and he's just been put on the spot and been forced way outside of his comfort zone, and it's interesting seeing him struggle with that, because you can tell it hits him hard. Hiroto, from Hiroto's point of view, he's just he's not trusting anybody still. They've mentioned it plenty of times. He doesn't trust people, or he uses them as tools to further his chances of winning. He's done this in practically every episode instead of actually teaming up with people, and that's why all the ways that they could improve, just it's not happening for them, because he's keeping all this information to himself. He knew that they were probably going to do low vis combat, so that's why he sent up the Earth armor to kind of give himself an advantage. He could have given everybody else that information and they would have been able to surround the enemy team, but instead he's the one thinking, you know what, I probably have more skills than everybody except maybe May, so I'm just going to do this on my own, and I think that's still showing him as a weak character in terms of not being able to trust anybody else yet. As strong as he is in combat, he's pretty pathetic when it comes to interactions with people. But I feel like that is because of his backstory, or rather the thing that they keep alluding to with the L-Diver that he's been hanging around with in his flashbacks. I just feel like the backstory that he has there has really kind of ruined him, whereas like whenever he's with Hinata, he has proper interactions. He kind of realizes every single time when he goes back to his house that he's doing something wrong, whether it be his parents that say something to him or whether it be Hinata, and I feel like he bounces off her better than he does the rest of them, primarily because she kind of confronts him with these things rather than letting him kind of just take charge. But But yeah, there wasn't much more to this episode. Again, it's one of those downtime episodes where they do a nice job of building up the characters and getting you to know them a little bit more. And then it's also practice for what's to come in the next episode. So it's nice that they keep breaking it up and saying, like, look, we're not just getting straight into things and having it be a straight A to B, you win every single time, or maybe you get stopped a couple of times. Instead, it's just like, yeah, we're actually taking more time to see them practice and put more thought into things. And I'm thoroughly enjoying that aspect about it so far, because it shows way more development and depth with the characters compared to Divers Season 1, where it was literally just, here's the objective, go, and it'd be done in like 14 minutes, and then the rest of the episode would be kind of celebrating and setting up other things to come, you know.
God, I'm so... let's just move on before I get into a rant on that.
Okay, so let's see. We're up to... That was 6 that we went over, so 7. Oh, yeah. So I'll take 7. So 7 is the episode after the practice. So obviously it's going to have a battle in it. Both Hiroto and Kazami are still on awkward terms with each other. They're both kind of a little bit funny. And what ends up happening is the Death Army grunts attack the Resistance main base, forcing the Resistance to evacuate from it. They were previously trying to get ready to move out and take the convoy to Seguri. And instead, it looks like they're moving out straight away. Whereas everybody takes one route, Muran and Freddy take another separate route to try and avoid everybody else. Because Muran has this kind of like artifact or MacGuffin that will apparently help them. So he separates from the main convoy. We have May and Pa running point on the main convoy and just supporting them and making sure they're okay. Hirato's bringing up the back, and Kazami's playing like the vanguard again, or the leader kind of role. And what ends up happening is while they're all spread out, Muran and Freddy get attacked in the car, and it kind of gets flung off the road by beam fire. And while everything's kind of getting really chaotic, they're not sure what's going on, they're not sure if the Seltsam's going to come in, they're kind of panicking a little bit. Kazami is still kind of annoyed at the fact that he's been pretty crap throughout all of this, and again, he's kind of still upset about the team battle. And at one point, like we've said previously, Moran talks to them all and doesn't really trust Kazami because of the way he acts. And even though he doesn't like Moran, Kazami starts remembering about Captain Zeon again, and starts remembering times where Captain Zeon would be in a really, really sort of tight situation, and then people that he didn't like initially and befriended later on would come back and help him out in his time of need. So remembering that kind of thing, he decides, you know what, I'm gonna help them out anyway. So instead of thinking all about himself, he sends Hiroto to go and save Muran, while he brings up the rear. And what ends up happening is he gets overwhelmed by a bunch of Death Army grunts and a new one, which is a Daughters from, I think, Gundam X. To which at this point, his Justice Knight just gets shredded left and right while he's trying to fight back. The shield gets destroyed, the sword gets destroyed, most of his outer armor's gone, and yeah, he's definitely not having a good time. And this is where I think he's at his lowest, when everything looks really, really, really bad, and it looks like, yeah, he's going to end up losing his entire suit. What ends up happening is he quickly or rather eventually comes to the realization that he really doesn't want to give up, even if he's in a bad situation. And this is helped when Hiroto comes back after saving Muran and Freddy, and helps him out a little bit. And eventually, after staggering up onto his feet, he manages to get his first kill, which he was really happy about, of course, because he's doing worse than Pa, so of course it's been kicking him all over the place. He's been taking it really bad, and of course this one kill takes so much effort to accomplish, but he's just so happy with himself, and they managed to clean up the remaining Death Army grunts. The Resistance managed to make it to the location where they're going to start crossing to Seguri, because I think if I remember rightly, they have to cross to a point where there's boats or rafts that are going to take them the rest of the way. And as they all group up in this area, this is where the Seltsam manages to come in and wreck everything. It raids the area, destroys the abandoned resistance base that they were just at, and everyone tries the best. You've got Hiroto using a quick combination of the Earth armor and the V2's armor with all of the weapons, and Pa using his giant beam cannon to try and fend off the Seltsam's giant beam cannon, and that really doesn't work, and it results in everybody having to flee, with Muran giving them this weird artifact that he says will be the key to everything. And that's where the episode ends there. And to be honest, like, going straight into this now, I liked this one because of the struggle, you know. I've always said this in previous episodes, I like having struggle to relate to, and especially when a character's wrote, even if he's wrote as a comedic sort of thing, as an idiot most of the times, I liked how much they paid attention to Kazami in these couple of episodes, and how they tried to build him up as this guy that, you know, he likes to flaunt everything and be like, yeah, look at me, I'm so awesome. But when he's actually put under pressure, and when they actually tell him, look, you have to do something properly, and you can see that his skills are nowhere near everybody else, then of course he's going to get frustrated, he's going to feel absolutely terrible, and it was made worse with him being beaten down completely. But the best part about this for me was where he eventually does get that last kill, just because you kind of feel as satisfied as he does, as if you're playing against some sort of incredibly hard enemy in like a video game and you've only just managed to beat it. It felt like that to me, purely because of the way that they'd set it up. And you can't help but smile at that sort of situation, because you feel sorry for the dude. He's had all of his stuff wrecked. He's had to go through that much effort just for one Death Army grunt. And then you see Hiroto and Mei like wrecking loads of him. He's still not going to be happy about it, but at least he's going to be happier than, you know, like previous episodes. So it was a nice turnaround for Kazami at the end, and it was nice for Hiroto to actually see that, yeah, Kazami's kind of finally understood that he's going to have to do some things on his own eventually, and that, you know, like, you're going to have to put some trust in him that he'll actually try and at least accomplish the objectives that they're given. And it was nice to see that Hiroto put some trust in him to leave him as the rear guard while he went in and dealt with the forces that were picking on Muran. You know, I actually liked the way that they both kind of grew as characters, where Hiroto learned to trust somebody again, and Kazami learned to sort of take that responsibility off the person that was tanking most of the enemies up until now. Meanwhile, Pa and Mei didn't really get too much sort of development or anything this episode, primarily because I think they carried on this whole thing of Kazami and Hiroto being at each other's throats since the last episode. The way they introduced the Seltsam, I liked it. Best way to introduce a mech, especially an overpowered one, is just bring it in, have it wreak havoc, have it look like it's throwing around tornadoes or whatever. because that's basically what it looked like when it was swinging around its lance. Its beam cannon is completely overpowered, and that arm is really weird, but it was cool to set it up as a boss character that's going to be recurring throughout the first season. Not so sure about the second one. It'll probably turn up at somewhere, but it's kind of cool to eventually, after having the name dropped a couple of times, actually see it in action and see how powerless everyone else seems to be against it at this point anyway.
Yeah, I pretty much agree. I will say you left out one of the most important parts, man.
Oh
The
no.
Captain Xeon episode.
I'm sorry. Do you want to cover that?
Come on, man. Yeah, when Kazami's down on his luck there, and the Death Army grunts and Daughtris are just about to completely obliterate him. The Captain Xeon episode that he was watching at the beginning, where Captain Xeon technically loses. He gets saved by the 3 ruffians that he rectified in the some couple of episodes prior.
I think it was like 3 or something.
And they team up to beat the guy. Yeah, it was 3. I forget their names, but honestly, they're throwaway characters anyway.
Yeah.
Like, the whole point was the words that Captain Xeon uttered were, I will never give up. I cannot lie to myself. I am, this is who I am. And you can't stop me, basically. And those words hit home with Kazami. It was like that revelation. I can't give up now. I haven't done anything. I have to prove myself, pretty much.
I think with Kazami, it's more like with that point, it's not as if he's got anything to prove to anybody else, but he's really frustrated with himself more than anybody. So it's just like...
Well, right.
It's just like he's so frustrated with his own inadequacy, I suppose, or his lack of doing anything to sort of help out or support, and just being made fun of and then getting absolutely wrecked. That I think that's when he really loses it. It's just like, no, I'm not having this. What the hell is this?
Yeah, it's more of a show of force, because at that point he doesn't even believe in himself. And the words that Captain Xeon ushers are like, if I don't believe in myself, well, then what do I believe in, basically? And, Kazami's like, I haven't done anything. To him, it's basically him speaking to himself, this isn't who I am, this isn't who I want to be, I haven't done anything yet, so let me get up and do something, pretty much. Seltzam? Oh yeah, that entrance. Can anyone just say jizzed in my pants? Because, god damn, his entrance was almost not. It wasn't on the same level, but it was almost as epic as the introduction of the No Name.
Yeah, I think the No Name had that kind of like stylish sort of thing with it, though.
But it's like, the difference here is that Seltzam is obviously overpowered. I mean, he literally moves his lance in a direction and like gusts of wind, literally just wind, make the other characters go flying. That's ridiculous. Add on top of that a single shot from his beam cannon that's part of a shield attached to his arm can literally create a crater the size of a football field, maybe larger. And I mean, on top of that, it apparently has like a weird arcing curve to it when it fires, which just looks like electricity flying out of his arm.
I don't know. I think that was a bit stylized, similar to how they did it in Unicorn, where it's the Banshee with its armed armor VNs. Was it?
Don't care. That shit looked amazing. I I would love for Bandai or Sunrise to come up with a Gundam that like shoots lightning from its fingertips or something, and then everyone start making Dice Cities jokes.
See, with the introduction for the Sam, the only thing that I think I can compare it to at the moment is when I did videos for Recreators in 2017 or 2018, I think it was. I remember stating that when they did something very similar with an introduction on that show, it was practically perfect for introducing a mech into the series, because you had a point where all the characters were just chilling out, and then they have this like overwhelming thing that's basically like a nuke just dropped onto the battlefield, and they all have to kind of just run. you know. And I feel like if you want to do an incredibly threatening or sort of powerful sort of reveal, you have to do something on par with that. And even though everybody does run, yeah, it's not on the same level as that, but it's definitely close in terms of, okay, so how do we leave an impact? How do we get people to understand this thing as a threat straight away, and how do we get people to really connect with this at the same time and be like, oh, that looks interesting, but oh, that's crazy. And I think that is a really good way of doing it, of just dropping it right in the middle of everybody when it's unexpected, having it going off like crazy with its lance and just wrecking everything without even doing much, and then finishing up with like a large beam cannon shot and being like, yeah, I'm out. I don't need to do anything anymore. By that point, it's left its impression, and you're just like, wait a minute, I want to see more of this. What's going on? How the hell are they going to deal with that? So.
Yeah. Other than that, I don't like Moran as a character. I don't.
I don't blame you, because
he doesn't really.
Go on.
Go on.
I was just gonna say, I don't blame you, because Moran keeps giving, like, even though Freddy tells him, like, look, the Build Divers are great, they actually came back, they helped out the really reliable people. He's giving me this vibe of like a double agent at the moment. I don't know why. It might be because of the facial expressions or whatever, or just the mannerisms they've given him. But he comes across as a double agent, and I can't help but get that out I can't get it out my head.
I wasn't thinking double agent. I was just thinking more of a really, really big asshole. I mean, technically both could be true, but we don't know for sure. And at the end of this episode, Moran's getting carried away on a stretcher, so either he's in like serious care or he's dead. Because he doesn't show up after that.
Yeah, I was gonna say, he doesn't show up, does he?
And the weird thing that the party gets, which is I don't know, it's supposed to be like a key or something.
Yeah.
Some weird diamond shaped pendant. And I don't know how you forgot this. Wait, no, sorry, I'm thinking of something like 5 episodes later. God, dude, that shows you where my mind is. But the only other thing I can add to this is I feel like Harato has had some interaction with the Celtsam before, or at least that's what they make it seem like. because when the Seltsam shows up, Harato has this horrified look on his face. I believe there's a brief flashback to the Seltsam in, like, standing in a bunch of rubble and fire. And then he just, almost like on instinct, rushes straight towards the Seltsam. So...
I can't remember whether it was the Seltsam exactly, but I kind of got this whole vibe of he almost instinctually knew how bad it was going to turn out and was just like, yeah, I've kind of come up against something like this in the past. Let's just go straight for it and try and deal with it because I'm the only one that can, again. And of course, he gets immediately just wrecked, and it's just like, oh, okay, I guess this isn't going to work.
Close.
Yeah.
Sam just waves his lance. Harato goes flying. But yeah, so that's where we end up on episode 7, and then go right into episode 8 here.
Yeah, you take it away.
All right, so we open up on a brief recap. Party's getting the diamond-shaped object. Don't know at this point what it does. And then we cut to May talking with Maggie again about the Seltsam and the story and whether or not it's the suit that the administration and Maggie have been looking for. So now we're getting a little more information about Maggie's involvement. He's trying to search something up about this suit, and he's working with the administration to figure out if it's the suit they're looking for. And he mentions, because May was talking about it, in GBN, like in the game itself, you can't modify your gunpla too much. Maybe swap out a cannon for a virtual weapon that you get that's like a limited use thing, but that's probably about the extent of it. And so at that point, Maggie thinks that it's not the same suit, because if it was, it would have been logged into the data. You know, when you log in, it scans your gunpla and, you know, like your retina and stuff, so that somehow it can teleport your brain into this virtual world. And since it hasn't been scanned, there's no way. At least that's what Maggie is thinking. Then whatchamacallit, May makes a offhand mention of someone is searching for something as well, because Maggie has complimented her that, you know, everything's going great with her team and that she might find what she's looking for. Then we cut to Harato in a classroom just after May says someone searching for something as well, which implies that she's talking about Harato, who is just staring outside his classroom window, daydreaming about something. And the intro starts, intro ends, and we continue where it left off with Harato just thinking about the previous the previous fight with Seltsam, and just how utterly outclassed they were. Some classmates ask Harato if they want to hang out. Harato says no. Hinato's walking down the hall and overhears. She walks up to the classroom door and sees Harato, and she's got this worried expression on her face and thinking that something must have happened. And it's sort of harkens back to the day that Harato came home drenched in rain and wet and all this because of what happened in GBN. After that, we cut to GBN, where Mei and Harato meet together, and they're walking towards the group that's waiting for them. And Kazumi is boasting to them about, look at this, I finally got a kill, I'm gonna upload this. Which is like the 7th video in his blog, I think that's what it said. Or his fake YouTube channel.
His GTube channel.
Seriously, somebody needs to fix it. GTube, it needs to be a thing. And then Seltsam comes up and Kazumi like, how are we going to deal with this thing? It was so powerful. Not that Kazumi could do anything anyway. His suit was damaged beyond repair. And the party gets summoned, and they head towards the main base of operations, which is Seguri. And Freddy notes that it's protected by some sort of barrier. And that's all the information we're given on that. It's not an eye field. It's not a like Minovsky particle or what's the particle emissions from 00? You know, it's not any of that.
GN particles. That was there.
Yeah, GN particles, which can create like a GN shield. And once there, we briefly meet up with Maya, Stola, and the kids from the village, and they learn of a festival known as the Space Crossing. And then there's a short montage, parties walking through markets, buying things, and Kazumi's carrying everything. Like he should. And Parvez mentions to Kazumi about how Harato and Mei are similar. Like they both act a bit cold. They're very blunt and straight to the point type thing. Then Jed and his crew show up, and we cut to leading the true leader of the resistance. And I don't know if I love Kazumi or hate him at this point, because he just kind of flops back and forth from being a lovable idiot to just fucking shut up. But they're exchanging pleasantries, and then Kazumi's just like, get on with the mission details. Like, Jesus, man, what the fuck? And being too nice to deny these builders who have so graciously helped them up until this point, they oblige and then talk about the Silver Tower, which is a really tall tower that stretches all the way into the sky and possibly beyond. And that they would scout it, but there's an underwater enemy. And I love Kazumi's reaction. He's like, underwater, sort of like having trouble, like, shit, my suit's not made for this. And then Harato tries to give the leader the object that Moran gave them, but the leader tells Harato to keep it. It's a symbol of trust and may help in the future. Then we cut to the party holding a strategy meeting, trying to figure out how they're going to deal with this underwater enemy. Jarvis brings up a team mission, which is a created mission called the Grand Dive Challenge. Oh, excuse me. And it's created by a group that is costumed as some early UC enemies or Xeon people. And they talk about the mission. Someone needs to grab at least one Haro and make it to the top, and that's how they win. And, oh, I forgot to mention that I love how Cosme remarks that all of Parva's bookmarks are team battles. And Parvis mentions that he had them bookmarked because he wanted to try them with a team, which is nice. I think that's, out of all the characters, Parvis is just adorable. He's like that energetic young kid that we all used to be, and that we no longer are. Anywho, they do they get it all squared away, and Harato tells everyone to log out, and he walks away. And May disappears shortly after him saying that, and then we see Harato walking through the town and having flashbacks of Eve and him, talking about, is he having fun? Is he enjoying this? And the little earring that he got for her, which was adorable to see. And then it shows Harato running into a beam of light, which fades away, and it's sort of like a balcony, and May is just standing there. Now, at first, if you were like me and pulled a complete dumbass, I thought May was Eve. Because it's not clear who May is, and all we know about Eve is stuff from Harato's flashbacks. So in my mind, I was thinking that May was just a oddly more grown-up version of Eve. Obviously, that's not the case, but, I mean, when you're first watching the show, there's no clear indication. And, whatchamacallit, May asks Harato what he's looking for. And then we get a very short segment of Hinata ending her shift and then being worried about Harato. I don't know why. It doesn't serve any purpose. But then we cut back to May and May and Harato, and May's giving a speech about the people of Seguri, living their lives the best they can, full of joy, sadness, and everything in between. And then she says that she doesn't feel any of that same level of passion or anything coming from Harato. He's just kind of exists right now. We then flop back to Hinata and the manager. I think Ken was his name.
Yeah.
And they're exchanging stories about the day that Harato became so distant. And the day, he just became the shell of his former self. Then we swap back to Harato and May, and May's explaining that she's searching for her own mission, her own purpose. And she then talks about how Parviz was finally able to fly, conquering his own fear, and Kazumi knows what it means, or at least knows how to be a hero now. and then questions Harato about what his mission is. What is he looking for? Back to Hinata and the manager, where Hinata remembers the photo that's in Harato's room with Harato and Eve, and looking very happily as they run towards the core Gundam. Then Hinata's wondering if that girl in the photo has something to do with why Harato is the way he is now. And then we cut back to Harato and May, and Harato explains that his mission is searching for something that cannot be found, and starts walking away while wishing May good luck in finding her mission. Then, after all that back and forth, we cut to the Grand Dive Challenge. The party, they're getting instructions on how to do it, which I already explained earlier. And when the challenge begins, they're not even... I'd say they're not even like 100 feet deep, or however the measurement goes. Probably like kilometers. And Cosme's armor starts shaking because of the water pressure and his suit not being optimized for water. And he's like freaking out because it's creaking and making all these noises. And in true Cosme fashion, it's over the top, like, oh, it's creaking, what's going on? And then Harato's just like, relax, just water pressure. So, after a few short minutes of the challenge starting, I think it's 2? No, it's 1. One of the 4 force members holding this created mission take Cosme out very quickly. And Cosme is just like, this is why I hate the sea. Parviz is next, and Parviz has a better optimized suit for water, but it's not great because the wings don't move like flappers. So when Par tries to like move, his wings are kind of stopping him because he can't move them in a way like a dolphin or a shark or anything. So he gets taken out quickly with like a whirlpool, just floats up to the top like a dead fish. So it's just May and Harato. And then three of the 4 force members begin their final assault. And it's sort of like this whirlwind torpedo thing. The 3 of them start spinning in a circle together. May fires a harpoon, which immediately gets deflected. And then, they come back around. And during this whole commotion, Harato just, like, straight up leaves May, goes down to the bottom, grabs a Haro, and then immediately gets intercepted by the host, who tries to do everything he can to stop Harato, but fails spectacularly. Like, nothing he does can stop him. Harato eventually uses, I guess I would consider this the ace in his sleeve. The 2, like, bits that came off his rifle, he attaches those to the host's suit and then just plummets him towards the bottom. And Harato makes his way quickly towards the top. The other 3 members try to stop him, but they're pushed back by Harato throwing his weapon down and shooting it with his head Vulcans. And then Harato makes it to the surface, and then the challenge is complete. And after that, Harato basically thinks that he should be the only one to take on the underwater boss because he's the only one who is the most prepared. And Kazumi really has no objections towards this, for obvious reasons. Parviz is a little concerned, and May is just like, her basic mentality is like, do you plan on taking on everything by yourself? And Eve said something along the lines of, don't do everything by yourself, if I remember correctly. And it kind of just sticks in Harato's head because what May says and what Eve said are very similar, and Harato's just remembering what Eve said, which is nice. But I said in I think it was episode 3 when it really starts taking off, I really dislike the amount of flashbacks. It's so annoying.
See, with this episode, I think the flashbacks build up Hirato a little bit more because, like, I know you hate it, but I don't really mind it as much purely because you have, like, everybody else going through their arcs, and because Hirato's, like, the main character, more or less, they're doing his incredibly slowly compared to everybody else's, kind of building it up at the same time as building May up as this mysterious character as well. So it's one of those things of slowly sort of turning the pages and finding out what's going on next in terms of character building, and as a result, you know, you get more out of it, but it does feel a little bit grating if you don't already like that kind of thing.
To add to the rest of the episode?
Yeah, I was just adding in there. With this episode, I do like the direction that they take in terms of going more into Hirato and Eve's interactions to kind of figure out why he's always mopey. With the setup for the battle that they're gonna do, that was more the focus for me in the episode, and I really like the battle because it's got its comedic moments, it's got its good action moments. For me, it's funny because you think, okay, Kazami's gonna be on a high after the last episode, and you know, the moment he dives in and figures out, oh no, this isn't going to go exactly how I want, next minute somebody pops up in an AK guy behind him and stealths him, and he ends up floating to the surface. Well then, that's your kind of joke moment there, and it only gets enhanced even more with Pa having the exact same thing happen to him, so they both look as if they've kind of drowned and floated to the surface, which is pretty funny. Again, like you said, leaving May and Hirato, and it's kind of, again, it's testing Hirato in terms of who he can trust and whether he's really come to terms with allowing himself to trust other people apart from himself. And I don't know, as much as it's a dick move to leave May on her own, I feel like he also kind of knows how good she is at combat, so he's kind of relying on her to delay them a little bit or distract them rather than just straight out being like, yeah, I don't care. You know, that's at least what I got anyway from that. The Mercury 1 armor that he uses, like the scuba gear, I like the whole design for it, how it's basically like a scuba jet kind of thing that you can grab onto and it propels him faster through the water. I like the way that the armor is shaped, like it has fins on it. And I like the way the V-fin almost looks like a breathing mask. It's a pretty cool design, and I like the bits as well that come with it. The individual floating bits, as we discussed before, being individual weapons and also being like boosters. It's a really cool design, and it's used to his advantage in this one. So yet again, he's using every tool at his disposal really well. It's just, again, it's one of those situations where he's still very reluctant about working with anybody else, and he's still incredibly reluctant to even trust anyone. So as a result, it comes across as he's just leaving everybody out and just trying to do everything himself. And it's, I suppose, Eve's and May's talking to him about it and being like, dude, seriously, are you gonna keep doing everything like this all the time? You're gonna find something surely that you can't do. That kind of, that sets up what's gonna happen in future. But I do like the way that it's kind of foreboding, but at the same time you can take it as just, seriously, dude, stop trying to do everything yourself. It's, I think if they'd have done this any more in terms of trying to push the whole narrative of Hiroto not being able to trust anybody, if they'd have done it any more than they already have, I think it would be incredibly grating, and it'd start getting really annoying because they've already pushed it a lot as a like a character trait at this point. But in future, we're gonna see that slowly sort of peel off a little bit over time. Either way, I'm looking at the time here. I can't go on any further with this one, so I'm gonna have to call it there. Have you got anything else to add just at the end, Ultris?
Just a little thing.
Go for it.
Why the fuck did Hiroto model the underwater armor after Mercury?
I have no clue.
Like, it's the closest planet to the sun. You couldn't choose Neptune? The bluest planet in our fucking solar system?
Maybe, because it's a Japanese thing, maybe they got the planets mixed up with the planet system. I don't know.
God.
Because I see where you're going, because, like, Neptune is normally associated with, like, water and stuff like that, so I can see where you're going with that, but, no.
Other than that, I got nothing else to add. These couple of episodes were hit or miss, and it pretty much just kind of goes up from here on out.
Pretty much. I mean, I feel like if we split it, when we've been doing these streams and explanations, if you split it up between the ones that we've covered now, we have the first 4 episodes, which are more or less introducing the characters, introducing the traits, and how the deal with situations, how they each react to the situation they're in. And then with, like, these 4 or 5, that's when you get to see them slowly get taken out of their comfort zones. You get to see them be developed more as characters, and you get to see deeper characteristics that they actually have, and that'll all then be taken forwards in future and used really well. So the future episodes that go right until the very end from, like, now on are really, really good in the way that they're paced and set up. But I wouldn't say these ones, or like all of these so far, have been slow or they've been boring. There's always been something there to keep your interest, whether it be world building or action scenes. Like I said, I've only seen 3 bits of reused animation so far, and I'm really happy with that. So it's cool. I can't wait for the other bits, but it's gonna have to wait. So, thank you very much for everyone that's watched. Hope you've enjoyed, and for anyone that's left a like on the video or shared it, thank you very much. It helps the channel a lot, and we shall see you on the next one. So until then, bye!
Bye!